Hello and welcome to the Largely Unnecessary First Player Token podcast. This is episode 47. My name is Chris.
I'm Euan.
I'm Pawel.
This is an enthusiastic introduction there.
I felt like
Everybody on cue. I didn't even have to punch anybody that time.
I was doing my live and kicking voice there.
Oh, hey, there's a blast from the past, eh? Was that
like
the one
a young Philip Schofield or whoever it was.
I think Gordon the Gopher, that was a live and kicking, wasn't it?
He was. I think that was where he made his debut.
Whatever happened to him?
Is
he on the streets now?
Let's be fair.
Not an actual gopher or a human, just for the record. If you don't know who Gordon the Gopher is, it's just a puppet.
It's just a puppet. Oh no, let's not get into that. Like,
Can we talk about Mass Effect now?
yes, we probably should stop talking about 90s TV.
Yeah, let's do that. We are back after a small break.
A little hiatus.
A small hiatus. I enjoyed my holiday, thanks very much.
Huh?
I'm now 33 years old and I'll have to now decide what I want to be when I grow up.
It's downhill from now on.
Is it a postie by any chance?
I've always wanted to be a postie.
Cool. you've put in the right amount of work, I think, to make that happen.
Oh, thanks very much, Euan.
Can we talk about Mass Effect now?
Pavel, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I was thinking, I want to be an astronaut.
An Australian nut?
An ostrich.
I want to
that
explore
goes into
alien
space.
planets, man.
Ah,
Like in Mass Effect.
Oh.
I don't know what you're on about.
Oh.
Euan, what about you?
I've never really had any ambitions at all.
That's a safe choice.
Yeah.
Am I going to have to get the sad violin parts out again? Start playing them over the back.
I should have made that sound. So I've never had any ambitions.
Aww.
Have you ever wanted to be on a podcast?
I've never eaten meat.
Well, that's not a bad thing.
All my toys are rocks.
Can we talk about Mass Effect now? Please.
No,
Okay.
you're stuck in this intro forever, pal.
No.
This intro's on now on a permanent loop. Oh, we should do a podcast which is just introductions.
Aye. It's like that. There's apparently a metal band that's just all their songs are entirely breakdowns.
Right?
So we can just nothing but intros, just 5 minute intro after 5 minute intro after 5 minute intro.
So that never drops in.
I just never try. It just gets stuck in a horrendous kind of muddy.
Oh, it will mess with my brain.
Okay, right, fine. Let's actually get down to business. So
Please.
this is a podcast about gaming, and this episode's going to be video games. As we always do, we have alternate weeks. So we have video games this week. We'll have a tabletop episode next week.
Anticipation.
Pavel-
I can't stand it.
It has been how long since we kind of first brought up that you were playing this?
3 weeks.
Yeah, all right.
Been about 3 weeks now since we talked about. Well, the thing is,
because on the last video game one, you'd played Mass Effect and you had to stop yourself.
He'd
from
literally
talking
just
about
got it, I think.
Aye.
He'd been standing in a queue.
You need time to come up with opinions.
Well, the thing is, I'm pretty sure we actually offered you the chance to voice those opinions in that episode,
No,
and
it's
you
fine.
turned it down.
I mean, in all fairness, the Horizon Zero Dawn really deserved its own recognition and screen time and whatever you call it without being mixed up with this.
Your time.
Yes. Also, I needed time to come up with an opinion.
Right, okay, let's get into this then. Right, that set me off.
Okay. Well, we'll start with just
gonna-
giving a brief overview of the game.
I'm going to introduce this review.
All right,
Okay,
yeah.
so we're going to have right. But this is
anticipation.
what we've described it as. This is what me and Pavel have come to an agreement about how we're going to describe this. Okay?
Yes, I
this is going to
solemnly
be
swear.
a massively effective, totally unbiased Pavel review. We'll see how far he gets.
Yes, that's what it's gonna be. Yes.
Right, Pavel.
Hello.
I believe you've been playing a game called Mass Effect.
It is called that. Yeah, well, this particular one is called Mass Effect Andromeda. And Euan's been playing it as well. So he was hoping that if I don't stop talking. You guys just chop me in the head, and somebody else talk then. Mass Effect. So yes, that's a big part of my life. The whole story started in 2007.
It is a big part of a lot of people's lives. I'm amazed at how much this game seems to have captured people's imagination.
It's
Certainly the original series. There's obviously some discussion over whether Andromeda lives up to that.
That's why we're here.
Now, I maybe be able to throw in some other ideas of this, because I have never played any of the Mass Effect games, but I have now started playing Andromeda with a friend, and it's okay so far. But
my brain.
But this is the thing though.
How to bait Pawel.
As someone with an outside perspective on it. And I'll fully admit this is probably just my own prejudice, but it looks to me, and the original series of Mass Effect games just look to me to be a terribly kind of generic-looking set of games. Mainly because the main human characters wear armour that's similar to the Halo look, and Halo is probably one of the worst games ever made as far as I'm concerned. So
I'm still hurting. Yeah.
I think Halo's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, well, he kills aliens. Kills aliens.
Yeah. Okay, no more memes on the show, please.
Far too many memes in this show.
So, Pawel, would you like to respond to that statement by Euan?
No.
Which was clearly just baiting you.
No. Instead, I'm going to say that Mass Effect to me and about 1 billion people out there is pretty much religion. And it's got a huge following. There's been a good number of games, but the core of the franchise is the original trilogy, which started in 2007, and Mass Effect 3 was a good couple of years ago, I think 5 years ago.
Has it been that long?
It's been a fairly long time, yes.
Holy crap.
I know. So I'm going to try as hard as I can not to obsess about this game. I'm honestly going to try, yes. That some people are nuts about Star Trek, some people are nuts about Star Wars. I could throw both these franchises into a trash bin when I would be comparing it to Mass Effect. It's all about the setting, really, for me. In all fairness, the way it's been...
Stop sitting on the fence, Pawel.
What? Do you want me to fall into the obsession? I can't. There's no controlling me after that.
He's already in there.
No, I'm still... I can do it. Right. Hello. Mass Effect is an RPG game set in a science fiction universe, which is amazing and awesome. It's a third-person view, mostly just run around and talk to people, interact with environments, and in combat sections of the game, pretty much shoot and or use whatever powers at your disposal to get rid of opponents. Is that the basics of the gameplay?
I don't think there's much more to it than that.
Mass Effect 1 would have had a very basic combat mechanics, which only barely resembled any reasonable shooter, and since then, with every release of the sequel, they've been upping their game, and maybe one day it will actually. To be fair, Mass Effect Andromeda is a solid action/shooting game, and Mass Effect 3 was already very competent at it as well. Right, so gameplay aside, I'm holding it together. The reason why this game has got such a big and loyal following is because of the world building and the narrative and the characters. To be fair, mostly about characters. I should have probably mentioned that you create a character in the original trilogy as well as in Mass Effect Andromeda, but you're always running around, whether in the combat sections of the game or in the, let's call them, social hubs of the game. You always run around with your companions, with your crewmates, and it's this collection of characters that you get to know and interact with. That's one of the main reasons for the series' success. And there's a lot of it. I mean, you'll go online, you start googling, you'll realize that there's whole fandoms behind every single or most of the characters, fan art, fan fiction, whatsoever, fictional relationships, and whole sagas about it. Focus. Original trilogy, all about Commander Shepard, either male or a female character.
But you have strong opinions about that one as well.
I have strong opinions about it. Jennifer Hale is a goddess. And also, there are people out there that apparently play male Shepard. Good luck to them. However, female Shepard is the way to go. The reason for it, simply apart from Jennifer Hale being amazing at her job, is literally because this is the same character written for regardless of which gender you play, which in effect gives you a fairly standard male character, because you've seen tough sort of soldier type male characters all around gaming world, and then you realize you get a female ex-military spaceship commander bossing around her crew and pretty much just making her way through galaxy, and the character is written not with her gender being the defining trait. This particular aspect makes female Shepard a very compelling character and quite a beloved character for the legions of fans. Oof,
that is quite interesting. Because obviously I've heard a lot of discussion about the gender of with the main character you take in these games, and it always seems to be like a big thing in Mass Effect. And to me, it always, again, coming from an outsider perspective on it, I look at these games. Plenty of games let you choose to be either male or female, and you can superimpose whatever you want, or they fit into the story without. So why is it that Mass Effect is somehow like way ahead in terms of how that?
Because this is an RPG game. At the top of its game, the way you get to learn your character and the way you get to play him or her gives you a hell lot of choice in how to actually act. So the character becomes quite close to you. The relationships the character develops with various NPCs. There is thousands of combinations. Sorry, I should say within the original Mass Effect 1, there were several hundred different choices that you would make that would alter the course of the game.
Right, yeah.
Most of them in tiny ways, some of them in quite dramatic ways. And it's usually those dramatic choices: who lives, who dies, who do you support, who do you betray, who do you punch in the face, who do you choose to romance, that give your particular time in Mass Effect your own flavor. Okay. And the game Mass Effect 1 alone was already praised for for complexity of choices affecting the outcome. Not necessarily, I don't know, a large number of endings, but rather how varied your time, your experience in the game can be depending on how you choose to play your Shepard. But then you get Mass Effect 2, which inherits most of the choices made in Mass Effect 1, and again Mass Effect 3 inheriting pretty much all the crucial choices and quite a number of other things that happen. Mass Effect 3 essentially inherits such a variety of factors that it was quite an undertaking to do, and I think BioWare will never dare to do it again, because
there are, I mean, obviously probably, but there is an option for Mass Effect Andromeda to import info from, isn't there?
No,
I'm sure I saw it when
there's no
the character creation.
Because Mass Effect Andromeda is not part of... Well, the original trilogy ended with Mass Effect 3, and Mass Effect Andromeda takes place in a different galaxy 600 years later. There's no actual import of saves. The only thing you get to sort of choose is whether the historic Commander Shepard, that's obviously by the time you play Mass Effect Andromeda, Commander Shepard would be a well-known figure, but in the history books of the colonists of Andromeda, the only thing you choose is whether he she was male or female. That's all.
Oh, right, that might
And
be
it's
why I
just
saw it.
aesthetic, just because if you then go on the Nexus, which is the big station, you go to the cultural center and you look through all the history recordings and stuff like this.
That's quite cool.
It's just for the game to refer to Shepard as male or female.
Okay.
But within the original trilogy, there was a lot of save importing and the consequences of that. So you bond with characters. You get to meet them again in another game, and then another game again. If you've lost them in Mass Effect 2 during the suicide mission, which you could, if you really tried hard, you could have completed it with a full crew, or you could have lost most of your crew essentially.
Right.
Then you don't have them in Mass Effect 3. So this game hasn't really truly been about combat, but rather about what choices you make, what sort of Shepard you play. And in all fairness, with the whole variety of choices you're presented with, and I'm sure that there's a lot of players out there that will experiment. I've had fun playing this particular walkthrough. Let's just create a completely different Shepard now and just do things completely differently. I was never even able to do it. I've played the trilogy a good number of times, and I'm always playing exactly the same Shepard because in my head it's just the character.
That's who you want the character to be.
Yeah. It would just feel wrong if I made different choices because it's
Just out of interest, do you do this with other games as well? If you go back and replay a game, do you make the same choices?
not many games really offer you that.
Well, there are a few out there. Well, what about role-playing games? What about your tabletop role-playing games?
Well, you don't really replay role-playing games.
No, but I mean, like, if you're making characters, do you find that you make very similar characters?
Oh, no, not at all, no. But Shepard is always Shepard. Whereas in role-playing games, that's the sole reason for them to exist is in every setting you make one or a number of characters. They all be different, don't get me wrong. It's just... And if I play Dragon Age, which is a similar game, and made by BioWare as well, a similar concept, well, let's say in Dragon Age Inquisition, you can make male or female belonging to, I think, 4 different races, many different professions. This is where you experiment with characters,
But you can't do it in your precious Mass Effect.
no, because it's always Shepard. Your role is predefined.
Right, okay. Yeah, but the choices you make is Shepard, right? Because I've not played Andromeda, but I have played the bits of the first 3 games.
Yeah.
I found I couldn't... They didn't hold my attention long enough, basically. I have reasons for that, maybe getting into that later. But you can make different
Very
choices,
different choices, yes.
in dialogues and stuff like that.
True.
And there are times when I played the first one, I was just being a dick to everybody. And then I played the second one a bit, and I was just being very, very nice to people.
Yeah, which is essentially your Paragon or Renegade options. And fair enough, sometimes you can make a slightly different choice. You can either punch the reporter in the face, or you can maybe actually be nice to them. But you still, or at least as I play Mass Effect, I develop this very... solid vision of what my character is, and I just stick to it. That's probably not the way the game should be played, but hell.
So, getting on to actually Andromeda, the new game.
Let's.
So, if I can give a brief overview of my understanding of what's happening in the plot. So, essentially, everything where all the previous plot in these games has been left behind, because you've gone on you're colonising a new galaxy. And one thing I do like about the Mass Effect series that I wasn't aware of, and it's come up in this game, is that they retain the designation Milky Way for the galaxy. There's just something funny about seeing that in a serious context. We're from the Milky Way.
Did they actually say that?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. No, everything's called, like, you have
Milky Way technology.
Yeah, you
research.
you research, like, because you find these other alien races in this new
Is
new
that
galaxy.
the official name for our galaxy?
It's called the Milky Way,
Absolutely, yes.
and they retain that in the. It's one of those things you don't think about all the time, and then you're like,
I never really considered that.
We're all
it's such
Milky
a ridiculous
Wayans.
name.
We're all Milky Wayans.
Yeah.
It looks a bit like
It did kind of send me off on a weird train of thought about, like, when they get there and they meet these aliens that they're hostile to, and they're like, oh, you're Andromedans, and they were like, we're from Milky Way. Why have you just called us Andromeda? That's just a name you guys made up for us. We're called the Milky Way.
This is the chocolate galaxy. Okay, carry on, Pavel.
Yes. Andromeda takes place in a different galaxy, mostly because the original Mass Effect trilogy has ended with essentially a destruction of the entire setting, so BioWare wouldn't even be able to really go on in Milky Way as such. Mass Effect 3 ending as such is fairly infamous, given that the franchise thrived on the complexity of choices and consequences, and then they had to finish the trilogy somehow, and they've just chosen the worst possible way to do it. Let's not dwell on that. Mass Effect Andromeda starts somewhere around Mass Effect 2, when Milky Way as such is still.
Oh, so
still exists.
These colony ships have spun off from an earlier point, because
Yes.
they obviously they talk out at the start of the game.
Yeah.
They've been 600 years in their deep
Mass
sleep.
Effect 3, there's already pretty much galactic war properly ongoing everywhere.
Right, okay.
Whereas Mass Effect 1 and 2, you do have your warfare with the synthetic race or with the collectors, but it's not on the scale that would prevent a project like this from being launched.
Yeah.
So Andromeda Initiative gets launched. 600 years later, colony ships arrive in the new galaxy and start looking for new life and settling outposts and the like. So this is BioWare essentially fulfilling the original promise to make a game about space exploration and not just combat, whereas Mass Effect 3, because of its mythos, because of the build-up and the scenario there, became more of a militaristic game.
Yeah.
Mass Effect Andromeda is exploration more than anything else.
Well, there's a few things in this. I don't know whether these mechanics are in the old games, because there's quite a lot of resource gathering. When you're exploring the planet, you have like little mining probes you can send out, and it's quite important for you to have some of these things just to.
Each of those games did it in one way or another.
Right.
But
it feels like this is something that's specific to the game because you're colonising, and you do. I realise that these are more story points, but you do set up these colonies, and you do have certain choices over how they're run and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, those games either did it in the past in one way or another, or at least attempted. If you take the Nomads in Mass Effect Andromeda, the planets that you can actually land on and explore tend to be. Some of them are limited in size, but there's 4 or 5. Fairly massive planets that you cannot really explore on foot. So you drive it around in a space buggy called the Nomad, which is reminiscent of early vehicles introduced in the earlier franchise called the Mako or Mako. Very good fun with the Nomads. This is definitely the bit of the gameplay that's been nicely improved, and I'm having a lot of fun using the Wii car. Another bit of gameplay that's definitely addition and a huge improvement is the jetpack. Mass Effect was always fairly. As I said, it wasn't really an action game, and it definitely didn't have a dynamics of any shooter. It did have its shooting elements and stages, I'm gonna say. Most of them depended on cover as well.
Yeah.
But it wasn't very, very dynamic. Characters couldn't really, jump over obstacles, and the controls used to be, I'm gonna say, a little bit clumsy.
Okay.
But in Mass Effect 3, they were already good enough for it to have a multiplayer, horde style, essentially 4 players versus 10 waves of AI-controlled enemies. Okay. And that worked really well, and Mass Effect Andromeda has it as well. But the introduction of Jetpack gave the gameplay a much more dynamic style, and again, excellent work. Yeah. Another couple of things to mention. I should probably mention Mass Effect Andromeda is as buggy as everybody sort of expected, and maybe even slightly more so. The game does feel like it lacks polish. And you know what? I actually always thought that Mass Effect was a bit of a quiet taste. When I picked up Mass Effect 1, at first I didn't really fully fall for it. I think you need to invest some time before it gets to you.
Yeah.
So Mass Effect Andromeda, the same thing. Sometimes that lack of polish is more evident, sometimes less. There is bugs here and there, nothing game breaking, but enough for you to just keep noticing them, which is unfortunate. And what can you do nowadays? You can play bloody Horizon Zero Dawn and realize that some games can be released stunningly well done straight away. And I wish Mass Effect Andromeda was done. Somebody maybe spent another half a year and polished this all up. There's obviously patches being released and the game is looking better and behaving better, and with time I'm sure it will be perfected. Unfortunately, some of the writing in Mass Effect Andromeda isn't also as high as you would have maybe expected. Obviously, players will have to develop new bonds with the characters and with the leading character as well. But you know what, give yourself 30-40 hours and you'll realize that they're already there. And Ryder, the Pathfinder Ryder, is actually a very good alternative for Shepard. He or she, much less militaristic. You have a broader choice of what sort of personality you want to give your character, and you can play them this way.
In terms of character look, is it... Because every time I've seen Mass Effect, Shepard, either male or female, looks always the same.
Yeah.
Is that always set, or is there a certain amount of customizability?
No. You could have customized Shepard, although it was always. I mean, they were always human, and a number of face options or hair options were limited, and because there was also save export feature,
so a lot of times
the mechanics of it were limited as well, because they had to essentially reinterpret character settings from previous games. And Andromeda, I feel you have more options to play with your protagonist's looks. And you can make a decently looking character as long as you don't go for your default rider. You're fine.
Well, having played the sort of first section of the game, you go to your first planet, you encounter these weird alien things that seem to allow you to terraform the planet. That's all very weird. I'm not entirely sure I'm fully down with the mythos of what's going on so far. The whole Pathfinder thing seems like bizarrely kind of nebulous and not very well explained. And they're always just going on, the Pathfinder's going to sort everything. It's like, isn't this a future society? Why do they have this weird religious thing going on? Which is what it seems to be.
I'm gonna say that's essentially just the game saying, listen, you're an important part of the whole thing because you're the player.
Right.
And the original trilogy, Shepard was the Spectre, which was just let's say an MI6 agent of the galactic government. Yeah. The Pathfinder is special because he or she has a direct neural link with an AI.
Yeah, they have kind of gone into that a bit.
But that, again, is slightly against the mythos of Mass Effect lore as such, where AI was always outlawed, a bit sacrilegious and outlawed.
They do talk about that in the game, and it's like that seems to be a major plot point to the game.
And to me, it's a bit of a plot hole, in all fairness, because you play original trilogy, and AI is always either a big no or a big secret, because one of your teammates essentially is AI, but it's a huge secret. Yeah. Whereas suddenly you have Andromeda Initiative, which is tens of thousands of colonists pretty much accepting that they are being led by a human AI hybrid. So, okay, well, fair enough. There's probably a subplot to it, or a submotive.
Yeah, I think there's more to that, because they have definitely attempted to broach that subject and sort of get into it, like why that's happened, and it was, there's some weird stuff going on with your father and stuff.
I've put 100 hours in it already, and there's definitely weird stuff going on, and a lot of things are explained. Still, writing could be better, but you know what? It's Mass Effect. I mean, I'm just eating it with spoonfuls.
No, I think we said you were going to be unbiased.
And I'm trying to be.
Basically, what you've just said there is, I don't care how bad this game is. I'm going to play it because it's Mass Effect.
Well, aren't most Mass Effect fans going to do that?
Yeah, the game. I totally understand.
The game is unpolished. There is a lot of criticism about its looks. it doesn't look worse than any previous Mass Effect. The criticism is based on the fact that the characters could actually look better given the fact that it's been 5 years since the last Mass Effect. The criticisms are about bugginess, and you know what? Plenty of bugs around, yes. But there were bugs in previous Mass Effects as well, and you just learn to live with them, I suppose. My problem with Mass Effect Andromeda essentially would be that some of the writing could be better.
Just so far of what I've met of the characters, I quite like the main character. I've given him a look that I like, and I'm like, okay, I'm clicking with that.
The behaviours you're offered are actually quite cool.
Yeah,
Ryder becomes a very fun character to play.
I don't generally enjoy those things, multiple choice things in games, but that is quite well done, I think. But yeah, the characters around you. There's this sort of blue woman, whatever she's called, PB.
Asari.
She's interesting enough. But it's like your crew that are with you are just like, one of them's just annoying, the guy Liam. He's just like, he was instantly cut from the team the minute he appeared.
There's a tradition in Mass Effect games that all human NPCs are less interesting than the aliens.
The Cora, who's the woman who apparently was originally...
Don't even get
she's just like a big streak of grey nothing. Like, honestly, like, play this game just to encounter just a completely underwritten, built character. There's just nothing to her. She just kind of sits in the back and goes, yeah, this is happening. It's tedious. Even her just screen time just annoyed me.
Every single Mass Effect starts with you having 2 human team members. I don't think there's many Mass Effect players that have ever actually played with human companions as soon as they had a choice.
I'm glad to know that that's a tradition then, and not just like a bad bit of...
I was hoping that tradition would actually be broken, and you know what? Cora is just unsufferable. Liam gets a bit of a bone eventually when you realise what he's about, but still. It's the aliens you're interested about, and some of them are cool, some of them need more time. Give it time, and you know, you'll get attached, which is what Mass Effect has always been about. Right, I'm trying to control myself. Am I being cohesive?
I think we've come to the end of this now.
I think,
what?
Yes.
I'm just starting.
we can carry on again in the next video games episode.
Build up some more opinions.
We'll see how we get on. How far through are you?
My galaxy map says 50%. I've reached the final explorable planet, so I think I'm maybe 2/3 into it.
You're getting there.
Yeah.
Alright, cool. So other than the story, the characters, the bugs and the visuals, this is actually a great game, is what you're saying?
It's amazing!
I would say a couple of things that you did kind of bring up there. The combat I'm really enjoying.
Yeah.
And I've shooter games I go hot and cold with. It's breezy and it controls well. The Nomad stuff, that's really good.
Those are all new additions and they're really well done.
Yeah.
Admittedly, that the combat in the Mass Effect games I did really enjoy.
Right.
But it's even better now.
The reason that I didn't really play the Mass Effect games that much, and also it's the same with the Dragon Age games as well, I kind of lost interest in them, is that I really suffer from that RPG fatigue where, you know, see when you're stuck into a new area and you just have to run about speaking to people, and it goes on for ages and nothing actually moves anything on. There's no action, there's nothing like that. I find it to be really dry and I just lose interest. Sorry, Pawel.
Sorry, no, because
Pawel likes.
I was... I had to interrupt because this is what RPG games are. If you play Pillars of Eternity, arguably the Baldur's Gate of modern age, you're going to get your hubs and you're going to get your combat stages.
But I prefer, because we played... why have I forgotten the name of the...
Dragon Age?
No, that one that you've been playing in the PlayStation.
Oh, the
one that's similar.
Divinity. Oh, Divinity, right.
I actually found that to be quite interesting, right? And I didn't get the same RPG fatigue. There is a point in that game where you get to a big town, or a decent sized town, and there is a lot of just running about, but you're actually doing something. I mean, you're there, you're investigating a murder, so you're actually running about, like, looking up various things. It's this whole idea of just, like, you run about and you either
fight or you have a social hub.
And you're just having long conversations. You spend hours just talking to people, and it just, I just get to a point where I go,
I think all those games
if nothing happens soon that's going to actually, like, give me something to do.
Yeah.
All right, because I'm playing a game, I'm not watching a film, basically.
Yeah.
I want to be actually doing something. I get bored.
There's a thing that's I've not encountered this myself, but it's apparently turned up in a few indie games or a few sort of like lesser known games of having conversation choices, but giving you a really short time limit on them.
Yes.
And you just make a split second, because that is the bit that annoys me. Because I know, and this is, I guess it comes down to how immersed you are in the game. Any time I'm playing a game where you're going through conversation options, I'm not thinking that I'm playing a role-playing experience. I am literally just sitting there fiddling with a computer.
Yeah.
I am just going through choices until I get the thing that happens. I don't feel any immersion in those kind of games at all. But some people do, so there you
Fair
go.
enough. And you're going to find that RPGs will have different proportions of your text versus interactivity, of your story versus, say, combat or other types of explorations. And as I said, most of these games do differentiate heavily between you advancing storylines or just having combat. And you're going to have games like Tides of Numenera, where essentially there is nothing else but just talking. And it's still an amazing game if you're prepared for it, if this is what you're looking for. And you're going to have Mass Effect games. In Mass Effect 2, in fact, or 3, I can't remember, you could actually choose between 3 different styles of gameplay that would focus on either one or the other, depending on what kind of player you are, because there were players asking for better combat, more difficult combat. There were players asking for actually less shooty elements, more talking. Mass Effect as such exists because it combines these two things, but it's probably not for everybody, given that you guys get bored in conversations, whereas there's going to be players, and I'm guilty of it. I mean, I'm enjoying fighting in Mass Effect Andromeda a lot, but I probably spend even more time running around the Tempest, which is the player's ship, just making sure that I've not missed any conversation, checking with all my companions. No, this one doesn't have anything new to say. This one either. Let's go to the Nexus and just go through the entire colony to the station to make sure that nobody has nothing new to say.
But I think I've done that in games, and because that's part of the gamer, the sort of completist in you that goes, I need to do all this. But then at that point, the RPG experience breaks down. Because you're essentially just you're essentially just rattling through the options. You're not role playing.
You're just trying to collect stuff essentially.
Yeah.
Because that's what that is, just running about doing dialogue stuff.
And that's why. But I mean, I guess that's why those games have replayability. But essentially, all you're doing is just going through to do another dialogue tree.
Yeah.
No, I agree that the concept probably needs to be improved at some point. Yeah.
Okay, we're really going to have to move on.
I thought it was a more generic discussion. About
it was a more generic discussion, but we're going to have to.
I want to
We're
talk
going
about
to have to try and fit in
something
at least one more game in this episode, at least one. So
I want to talk about Mass Effect some more.
Okay, well, give it a couple of weeks, Pawel.
Okay,
and we'll give you another 5 minute slot, which will turn into half an hour.
Mass Effect is brilliant.
Okay, moving on. Let's talk about Disc Jam.
Do I get a quick?
Yeah, let's talk about Disc Jam.
chat?
Okay, so Disc Jam was a game that's just appeared on PlayStation Plus.
Yep.
And it's actually, we're going back a month now. This is April now, so this was actually a free game in March, and I had downloaded it.
Some people might have it sitting on their PS4.
Yeah, you may well have it
so,
sitting there. And I just didn't touch it until, a couple of weeks ago or something like that, and then me and you decided to just turn this on and see what this was.
It's futuristic frisbee, is what I would describe it as, in a tennis court.
See, I think it's kind of like futuristic volleyball frisbee.
Aye, yeah.
I think volleyball's probably the
volleyball, I
closest
guess,
thing
is
to it.
where it's going with it. I mean, the ball is a disc, and you can sort of throw it at varying speeds depending on how quickly you catch it and throw it again. That's quite a good mechanic, that. Or you can lob it, which isn't very effective, but it's really fun. Because you just watch everybody else or whoever's on the other side have to bolt across to go and catch this thing.
Now, this game is it's kind of jumping onto the sort of Rocket League bandwagon almost. 'Cause it's got that sort of similar feel to it, especially like the menu screens are just like really similar in the way it's all set up. So
yeah.
There are like 4 characters you can play as. I don't think there's any real difference in the characters themselves. Just like in Rocket League, you can pick your car, but it's aesthetic. So you've got a guy who looks like vaguely like a janitor or something. You've got a big muscle man, and you've got a couple. You've got a woman that's like a ninja or something, and there is another woman that I don't think very many people seem to play as, actually, because I've barely seen her.
Because there's the ninja woman, but then the other one's like just slightly generic looking.
Yeah,
particularly.
I don't really get what her character's supposed to be, but anyway,
maybe just
it makes no difference. But yeah, you're basically just put on this court, and it's got that sort of like the kind of view that you would the perspective you would imagine from like a tennis game that would give you.
Nah.
So you're basically just at the back of the court, and this frisbee thing just gets thrown to one of the players, and you're basically just throwing it back and forward. And if you manage to get it past your opponents to the opposite, to behind them, basically behind the court, the frisbee gets shot by lasers and you score points.
Yeah. Or if for whatever reason it lands in the middle of the court without somebody.
If it lands in the middle of the court, then and that's generally when you're lobbing it or you're smacking it back.
Aye, there's a few weird things you can do with that, which are quite fun. When the thing's thrown at you, you can press X to. Now you catch it automatically, because I was getting a bit confused with the controls. I was trying to press X to catch it, and what I was doing, if you press X too early, basically if you press X just right, the minute you catches it, you fling it back at full speed, and then there's like basically when you catch it, there's a wee timer that appears, and you get to the point like if you hold it too long, it'll just throw it automatically very slowly. But yeah, if you press it too early, you kind of just smack the thing, and that can be bad for you. You know, you can end up like going to catch it and then just knocking it over the back of yourself, and then you lose a point. But you can also sometimes people get right up to the net and start trying to like throw it and then just like
they're just tapping X to try and smack
the volleyball
it back.
Bit, I
because
guess.
The thing about the X button is because it's both the throw button, but it's also it's like a block button, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like if you hold X down when you've not got the frisbee or the disc or whatever you want to call it, you can basically just charge up the shield in front of you. So you can stand at the net and just have the shield thing up. But one of the interesting things is if you charge it up for long enough and then somebody throws the disc at you, it basically just goes up above your head and you catch it and do a super move.
Yeah.
So like if you've managed to position yourself in a spot where like you know that the disc is coming to you, you can just stand and charge this thing up and then basically just throw this thing with burning trail behind you. Interestingly, you get to pick which one of these things it is when you're choosing which character you are.
You get
there's
like,
different
there's
shapes. You do like a twisty one, or one called the Pythagoras, which is just basically straight lines that just goes left and right, and it's so fast.
The scoring system is quite interesting as well. I mean, you basically play like a short game. It's up first over 50, I think.
First to 50.
First to 50.
Best of 3 games.
And what happens is when from the kick-off or touch-off or whatever, it's you... it starts... Does the points start at 5 or lower than that?
6 is the lowest you can score. And then every time... so it goes up the more you rally it, basically. So the longer the point goes on for, the more points it's worth. But also, if you manage to get an ace, if you manage to score without anybody else touching it straight from the serve, you get 10 points for that. So yeah, that scoring system is quite interesting because you can end up with a rally that ends up getting up into the 20 odd points or something like that, and then it becomes more and more and more tense. Just people just trying to properly outwit each other all the time. And the other thing we should say actually is that the disc, you can throw it off the walls and it bounces, so you can do interesting things, and you can wiggle the stick while you're throwing stuff so that you can actually put spin on this on this disc as well, which has got some interesting things because you can bounce it off the wall, you can spin it towards the wall and throw it right up the side of the wall, and it basically just constantly bounces off. And if you manage to do it fast enough, it could be quite off-putting to try and catch that.
Oh yeah, no, that was one that always got us, because I remember there was a couple of folk we were playing online that seemed to have just totally mastered that move, and they were just kept on like just flinging it up along the side. And it's for some reason just quite hard to get when it's like that. I don't know if it's either you get into it or you think you're there and you're not. It's an odd one.
It is indeed. So you can play single player, you can play multiplayer. Multiplayer is just 2-on-2. And you can play just 1-on-1.
Can you do singles multiplayer?
Singles multiplayer?
Matches.
Sorry?
Singles multiplayer. No, can you, because we were playing doubles multiplayer, we were a team against, but can you just play 1-on-1?
What, online? Yeah.
Online,
Yeah, aye. So you can do that. And it's got the sort of like similar things that like Rocket League has. You basically you get some J's, you get points that after every match. For some reason it's a J. So you got like maybe it's jams. You get enough jams, you can pull the vending machine handle, and you get a sort of like aesthetic thing for your character.
Yeah. New outfits
and poses, name tag things and stuff like that are just aesthetic things. Again, just like in Rocket League, it makes no difference to the actual gameplay. But yeah, that's Disc Jam, which let's say it was a freebie last month on PlayStation Plus, so you can't actually you may have it sitting in your system, or you've missed it. Or
if, like many of the people who probably did shell out for Rocket League, it's probably worth the admission price if you can get hold of it.
If they see, I get the feeling with this game that they're really going to try and add some more stuff on it if this is going to continue to be reasonably popular.
It looks like it needs a wee bit more.
Yeah, because at the moment it seems a bit empty. There's not a lot to it.
Yeah.
And you feel like the game could probably do with some extra modes or something like that, or more customizability and stuff. But as it stands at the moment, it's a fun way to just pass the time. If you've got 10-15 minutes where you've got nothing to do, it's quite fun to just stick it on and see how many J's you can win.
You've got to get them J's. The whole thing with like the actual game itself and the control of it and everything like that is really well worked out. I mean, it's like they've just had that down, and they just need to add in the little kind of bells and whistles, basically.
Yeah, just a few tweaks, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Disc Jam, and that's it's on PlayStation 4 and Microsoft Windows, and it's by High Horse Entertainment. So I'm going to move on. I've not got a lot of time left, but I do want to get this game in because I have been streaming it a lot, and it's been really fun. I've been on the survival games again. I'm sorry. All right, I know I do this all the time.
Did you not publicly state on this very podcast a while back that you were?
This is different. This is different.
Okay.
Right. This is the Wild 8. Which is, again, it's an early access game that I picked up on Steam. It looked quite interesting, so I thought I'll pick it up, and I started to stream it, and you know what? It's really addictive, and in a different way from most of the survival games I play, because in stuff like 7 Days to Die and that kind of thing, it's all about the base building, right? There is no base building in the Wild 8, right? But it's story-based as well, so it's a story-based survival game. There is actually stuff that you need to do in this. Now, this has got it's almost like a Diablo-style view and control sort of thing. So it's that sort of almost isometric sort of top-down sort of thing. And basically you're the survivor of a plane crash in Alaska. So you wake up and you have to then survive, okay? But as you're wandering about, so like the game tells you there's little sort of like almost like quest boxes that say go and investigate the wreckage and stuff like that. So you'll get your stuff together, do the usual survival stuff. You're collecting wood, you're collecting food and stuff like that. You can hunt animals once you make some weapons and things. Punch a rock to get some stones. Do the usual stuff of making axes and that kind of thing. But it's really sort of simplified all that. It's not like it's a complicated process or anything like that. It's quite clear what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And then you'll go off and investigate the wreckage, and then you'll find something there, and then it'll be like, oh, there's a building over here, what's that? So you go off and investigate that. And then it starts to get weirdly sinister, so like a wee bit dark. So like you start to find all these as you're wandering about the place, there's power lines all over the place, and you're like, well, why the hell are these here?
All right.
And then you go and investigate that, and then it leads you to a building that's like some sort of scientific bunker and all this. And you start to find out, like, there's something going on here in this part of Alaska that's clearly been hidden, and you start to find like notes from scientists and stuff like that, and it's that usual, it's that Resident Evil style sort of like, oh, this has gone wrong, like, oh, why have we done this? Like it's that kind of thing. You start to encounter weird creatures and all these kind of things. So it's a survival game with a difference. I want to say it's a bit like Don't Starve. It's not really, but it kind of is at the same time. It's kind of weird because Don't Starve has its own sort of charming character to it.
Yeah,
and it's got that.
And it has a kind of internal mythos.
Yeah,
as well. There is all these little things that they've thrown in.
So this is sort of like, it's not as cartoony as Don't Starve. Basically, it's a bit more realistic in the way that you're doing things. But the emphasis in this, it seems to be like 50-50 almost on story and survival.
Okay.
So like you're not it's very easy to die in this game. Okay, and dying is brutal in this game. So like you've got skills and stuff like that you can level up as you're doing more stuff. So if you're chopping down wood, and you'll get better at chopping down wood. So you can put skill points into that. The more you walk about and stuff, the more athletics points you get, so you can make yourself move faster and sprint and stuff like that. But when you die, you lose all of that.
Right.
All of that stuff's gone. And you start again. So imagine you're playing like an RPG or something like that, where every time you die, you lose all your skills, everything that you've unlocked, and you start again. Now, the only thing about that is that when you die, a lot of your stuff will drop on the ground. Not all of it, but a lot of your stuff will drop on the ground. So you can go back and pick it up, which will give you a bit more of an edge, because if you've made good axes and, you know, good weapons and stuff like that, and good armour, you might be able to go and pick some of that stuff up, and some of the resources they might have been carrying around with you. So that's about the only thing that you'll get out of dying. But other than that, yeah, dying is harsh in this game. But for some reason, I feel like it works with this game.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this game is supposed to be hard, and you're supposed to feel like that surviving in this game is difficult.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're surviving to then to experience the story.
Yeah.
Essentially, and it's like that's the.
But dying makes experiencing the story harder, because of these weird creatures that you're finding that will attack you on sight.
Aye.
So like if you're dead, if you've died and you've come back as an ordinary guy, I'm not going anywhere near one of those bunkers again until I get my stuff back. Basically, right. It's one of those things. So you do have to kind of start again and build up again. When I first started playing it, I'd played through a bit of it, and then I'd come back again a couple of days later to find out that there was a massive update and I couldn't use my save game, and I was kind of annoyed. But then I realised that the stuff that they'd added in with this update was pretty cool.
Right.
Because like I say, there's no base building, but what they've done is they've added in another bunker thing, which you find really early in the game, that is basically like a bunker which is like places scientists were actually living and growing crops and sort of hydroponics labs and all that kind of thing. So like you can use that as your home base, and it's got all kinds of storage and stuff like that, but there's locked doors in it as well, and as you're exploring the world you'll find keys for those locked doors that will give you access to more stuff, and it's actually pretty cool. I didn't mind losing my save game to get that added in. The other thing is the game's procedurally generated as well, so the maps are all random. Okay. They will have certain things in them because it's all based on the story, but they're never going to be in the same place, and everything's always going to look different. So yeah, I'm really, really enjoying the Wild 8. I have to say, it's a survival game with a twist, and yeah, absolutely loving it. I don't know, we'll be streaming more of that at some point in the near future. So that managed to get those games in there just at the end after Pawel took up the most of the episode. Yet again.
I want to talk about Mass Effect some more.
Okay, Mass Effect.
Let's give out all our internet stuff while Pawel looks at his phone.
I'm actually checking this Wild 8.
Oh, you're checking out Wild 8? What do you think?
That looks cool.
You should go and check out the streams. I've been putting them up on our YouTube channel, actually.
Okay.
So the full streams are there. I'm thinking about setting up a separate playlist for it, because if I feel like I'm going to be streaming this game a hell of a lot, because I'm enjoying it that much. Okay, our email address is firstplayertoken@gmail.com, so that's FIRST player token. You will find us on Facebook, Twitter, SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Those are all the large and unnecessary First Player Token, or First Player Token. The exception being Twitter, which is @1ST player token.
Once player token, if you're confused there.
Thank you, Euan. Our website is www.firstplayertoken.com. Look, I'll fix it.
A regular
Actually,
refrain.
we're going to have a talk about this after this episode is finished, alright? So yes, I'll get round to dealing with the website, because I'm going to make these guys help me. We have a Discord, you can ask us for that, and we are part of the Podnose Network,
the UK's leading entertainment podcast network. And there's still... What day are we on? The 20th?
It's
yeah, of course, it's 420. Woo! Yeah, brother. It's
actually 24, but, you know.
24? Well, yeah, but like,
we're not American,
we're doing the
we do dates properly.
American
We do them in order.
Yeah. Listen, bro. Yeah. So 8 days left to vote for us in the Listener's Choice Podcast Award. So if you're a listener and you, honest to God, chose this,
I'd vote for us.
Yeah, vote for us. You just have to go on the website, search for us, and you can
put some effort into it.
It's basically the write-in vote. So yeah, get on that, and check out the Podnose Network and all of its wonderful podcasts.
Indeed. So that's www.podnose.com if you want to go and check out a whole bunch of other podcasts that isn't just us. And that's the end of the episode. So, episode 47 done. We can get more Mass Effect in a couple of weeks, Pawel. You're sitting there like twitching.
Please.
You're twitching.
I'm waiting for my time window to talk about Mass Effect some more.
I've never seen you like this, Pawel. It's disturbing.
You know what? When this
I know the
episode's
shakes
finished,
are coming now.
when this episode's finished, I'm going to go and stand you in the kitchen and let you talk to a wall for a while. Just to get it out of your system.
Let's go.
You just stick it like a pan of cold water on his head, and then you can make your tea at the end when he's finished with it. Like, presumably.
Or I could just go back home and play some more. Yes.
Okay, that might be the best idea. Just get out of my flat. Okay, we will be back next week with a tabletop episode. And speaking of which, it's International Tabletop Day on April 29th, so we're hopefully going to get some board games streamed. We'll play some fun stuff, actually, I think, would be the idea. But yeah, look forward to that. We'll be back next week with our tabletop episode, and we'll keep you updated. So we will see you then, and thanks for listening.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.